I was thinking about this recently, and then yesterday I'm over at one of the websites I check daily, silverdoctors.com, and they have this article. It says, I was just thinking about this. I was just thinking about doing a video about this. Perfect. Perfect timing. Will JP Morgan dump physical silver into the next price rally? And here's what I was thinking the other day. You remember when JP Morgan, not that long ago, bought a huge amount of physical silver that they've kept. They've stored for themselves. It wasn't something for the comics or anything else. It appeared to be JP Morgan buying silver, keeping it in its warehouses. Now, if you are an insider club member and you know the prices are going to be going up, you could buy whatever the market price is or whatever. You get your silver, sit on it. Months and months and months go by. Then all of a sudden prices start skyrocketing. And to help keep the prices from going too high, since you're a member of the club, your duty is to deal with and try to hold down the price rise. So maybe JP Morgan can flood some of the physical market with silver as the price goes up. That's a possibility. Or are they going to hold on to it until the big numbers come and then unload it? So this thing from here, and this is from Ted Butler, submitted by Dr. Jeffrey Lewis via Silver Doctors. Was JP Morgan stockpiling physical silver over the past 24 months to dump it on the market into the next massive bull leg up? Ted Butler weighs in, he says. The final question asked of Ted Butler in our recent Q&A was in response to his claim that JP Morgan has amassed a huge hoard of silver over the last 4 years. The question is, can they do this? Ted says, sure. If you own something, you can't tell somebody you can't sell it. Is it possible that JP Morgan could use the physical, the 400 million ounces that I allege they've accumulated in the last 4.5 years, to keep the price of silver depressed for as long as they could supply silver to the market at any price that they decided? Is it possible? Yes, of course it's possible, he says. But is it probable and is it likely? He says, I don't think so. Because you have to take an objective appraisal of JP Morgan. Why do they exist? Just like a shark is a perfect eating machine, supposedly JP Morgan is a perfect profit machine. It's what they do. They just make money. They steal from their customers and others as much as they can, which is reflected in the many billions of dollars of fines and settlements that they've accrued. Which actually is true because I've covered a number of them on my videos. All in the pursuit of profit. That's the common denominator. That's what makes JP Morgan tick. It is the quest for profits. Of course, I think I could lump a huge, enormous amount of well-known companies you have all heard of under that same headline, that it is the quest for profits. It will stop at nothing. Human life, animal life, our water, radiation. Give me my money. Profit. They have a situation here. If I'm correct, and they've got 400 million ounces, then they should be in jail because they acquired that 400 million ounces predominantly on lower prices that they were instrumental in causing to be low by virtue of the paper short sales on the COMEX market. Raise your hand if you agree. Raise both hands. Talk about the perfect crime. They lowered the price and they've accumulated all this silver, 400 million ounces, at a highly advantageous price, higher than it is now. It's got to be in the 20s, their average buy-in price. Will they turn around and sacrifice that? He says, I don't think so. These guys are in it for the money. They don't care about anything. They'll steal their grandmother's eyes if there was a buck in it for them. But I'm thinking they're going to sell all that into the big rally. They may be cost average in the 20s. In other words, 20-something dollars per ounce since they've been buying over the last 4 years, according to him. But I only remember like this year reading about a huge amount of silver that JP Morgan bought. I didn't realize he was talking about, going back this year, the year before, and 2 years before that, 4 years. Could it be that JP Morgan's going to supply the COMEX market with its silver for some kind of handsome fee, commission fee or something? Possible, but again, I don't know that that's likely. They already control all the paper markets. They don't need JP Morgan supplying silver. It's all paper anyways. They're setting the price with paper, not real silver. So JP Morgan may have said, oh yeah, we know what silver was going to go because we're the ones rigging the markets. We know exactly what's going to happen. And when the timing's right, and when we say the timing's right is when it's right, we will unload our silver. So keeping in mind, last November, I've said this a bunch of times, the CME group, which runs the COMEX, sets the rules and regulations of the damn thing. Private entity, how the hell does that happen? I don't know. Added a little rule for gold and silver, which is our simple circuit breakers. If the price moves too much in a specific amount of time, circuit breakers are kicked in. You can't buy or sell. You have to wait. Circuit breakers turn off. Try it again. Okay, every market's open again for these two entities if it was gold and silver that did it at the same time. And that's allowed to happen 4 times in a day's trading. So why did they implement that rule if they could continue doing what they've been doing for decades, rigging the price on the COMEX market? I've told you I felt because they know the price is going to skyrocket. So they have to put a cap on it by trying to slow it so it doesn't go crazy. But JP Morgan is, of course, going to know this because they're the insider. And they've, last 4 years, have purchased enormous amounts of silver and are sitting on it. I would honestly think, because remember what Webbot says, there's going to be panic to own silver. Panic to acquire and get your hands on silver. JP Morgan may say, we've got an enormous amount of silver. Which one do you guys want it? Which one of you refineries? You got to make some for the U.S. Mint? What do you need? Well, we see prices are skyrocketing today. And we don't want to really get rid of the silver all of a sudden. So if you want it above and beyond these high prices, we'll give it to you. So spot prices, whatever it is today, we want 25 or who knows, 50% above spot because we see shortages everywhere and we got it. How much is it worth to you? And they can make a killing. The same guys who've been rigging it the whole time. As he said, they've been rigging it the whole time, buying it cheap, and then they're going to sit back and wait. I've said this before. When the elite want something, they don't pay today's price. They don't pay fair market price. They don't pay below market price. They get what they want when there's blood on the streets. Pennies on the dollar. So you might argue at $13.90 and $14 silver today, that's blood on the street. You may also argue, actually, they could go a lot lower if they wanted to. Hell, they could put it to $6, $7, $8 if they want to. That would really be blood on the street, so to speak. And I would agree to that too. But you can't buy an enormous amount all at once, which is why, in my opinion, and I'm sure Ted Butler's probably, that's why they've been buying it over 4 years. They don't want to cause a shortage all of a sudden and cause the prices to skyrocket too early. No, they got to do it slowly but surely. They did a nice chunk of that buying this year. So the question is, why did they buy all that silver in the first place? The answer to that will come when we see what happens. He says, look, if silver comes to $100 and beyond, that's like $40 billion for JP Morgan. It's like a $30 billion profit. This is table stakes for them. Yes, if they're nickel and diming 2 million credit card customers at a time, then the nickels and dimes add up. But if they got 400 ounces of silver, like I think he means million ounces of silver, like I allege, I think that's probably the most bullish thing you could say about silver. Because the crook has got the biggest position. the way he's going to make money is the more it goes up. That's just like, that's just a probability. Can I guarantee that? No, of course I can't. Is it possible that they could sell? Yes, I guess. But is it probable? I don't think so. What for? What do they have to gain? They're out to steal every dollar that's not nailed down. They're bigger than the U.S. government, he says. And I'll allege they are bigger, but they are also the U.S. government. Because when they and their people get put into the Treasury, get put into the Federal Reserve, get put into the CFTC regulators, the Security and Exchange Commission for Wall Street regulator, and they have that revolving door to JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs and the club, yes, that's a fact that the JP Morgan and them boys are bigger than the government, and they are and own the government. I mean, it's obvious when you look at that from that perspective. People think sometimes that the U.S. government's going to keep the price down and protect the dollar or the stock market. I say there's a simpler explanation. JP Morgan suppressed the price these last 4.5 years precisely to acquire this silver, and they have no interest of letting loose of this silver except at some extraordinarily high price. So, I mean, I have to say I agree. Why would they sit on physical silver so much? Again, if you're an insider, you're a club member, you know what the hell's going to happen in the future because you guys are doing it. So why, in the last 4 years, prior to the last 4 years, why wasn't JP Morgan buying this tons of silver? Hell, in 2006 and 7 and 2005 even. You know, going back 2004, 5, 6, 7, silver $6, $7, $8, $9, 10, you know, it started creeping up. What? Hell, why didn't JP Morgan buy 400 tons or 4 million ounces, whatever it was, back then? Hell, you could have made a killing. I believe it's twofold. They are the government. They understand the U.S. dollar supremacy, so they will do everything that they're told to do because it's them telling themselves that essentially. We got to keep our central banking create treasury bonds to sell at interest, you know, the whole elite's banking system afloat, which relied on the U.S. dollar being the world's reserve currency. And now that they all know the days are over for that sucker, I've been reading you almost at least weekly something with the U.S. dollar, another, you know, deal over here, China, this one up, you know, the other one the other day, was it Brazil or whatever, or Zimbabwe. We're gonna now tie our, you know, we're gonna use the Chinese yuan. You know, I said, hey, hold on, why didn't you say you were gonna use the U.S. dollar? And all these meetings you guys are having, the BRICS nations, why don't I see an American spokesperson of any kind showing up there? They're just not invited, or what's the issue? Yeah, they're not invited. They're coming to an agreement of what are we going to do to replace this SWIFT system, this Western financial system. And they're already putting the pieces in places. I've been doing videos on every time they got a new investment bank for China. It's going to compete with the IMF, World Bank. They got that in place. They've got their commodities markets in place. They got this in place. They're getting ready to wipe away the old Western world. And the club knows it. And the club knows we'll ride this horse till it dies, this U.S. dollar horse till it dies. But when it dies, we will be in a position to profit massively when we get the the dollar's done. Yep, okay, now let precious metals explode. And they'll have huge stockpiles of gold and silver to just sell, all by chance. You know, if you believe in chance, no. So, anyways, take care.